Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 91.
Congratulations, you showed up. Give yourself a high five in celebration of your success. Welcome to the Cashflow Diary, where new and experienced investors come to take confident action towards their goals. Your host is a family man, a real estate entrepreneur, investor, coach, and instructor. As a master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's Cashflow 101 game, he's inspired many to begin their journey into creating cash flow for themselves and their family. And now, here he is to offer you the tools required to earn the income desired. Your cash flow coach, Jay Massey.
All right, and welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast. My name is Jay. I am your host, and I am so glad that you are here. You know that we're going to do something special for you today. What we're going to do today is make sure that you have every reason to take action on all of those things you've been hoping would happen one day. I believe today's guest is going to be able to inspire you to do that finally today, in fact. Now, before we get there, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, you have something special already available. Go over to learninvestingnow.com. Again, that's learninvestingnow.com. And when you get there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to help you learn investing now. That's exactly what's going to go down. Feel free to begin your journey in becoming a bigger, better business owner and investor so that you have a shot at creating those things and making them happen. Now, today's guest, understand this. We all start somewhere. But today's guest probably has one of the more interesting backgrounds than I think I've ever talked to. He was a former bread delivery guy. I love that idea. That means to you, anybody, every one of you, we all have a dream. No matter what we're doing, we're probably not meant to be doing that. So if you're a bread delivery person or mail carrier or anything, I want you to pay attention. If you feel like you're doing something that doesn't fit you, I want you to pay attention. But he's self-published 2 books, which initially flopped. And I love this because we all know failures create lessons. And he then figured out this internet thing, right? And you guys have been watching us try to figure this thing out. And he's now sold over 82,000 copies. And that's awesome. And now he's publishing in the traditional market in bookstores, international speaker, life coach, and consultant. And he's on a mission to help people figure out why and what their dreams are and how to make those dreams become a reality. So help me welcome Kimanzi Constable. You there?
Hey, Jay, thanks for having me.
I'm glad you're here.
I really like the show, and I like your story as well. You got a pretty cool story.
Yes, maybe I should write a book about it. What do you think?
80% of people have a book in them.
At least one, right? At least one. So, one of the things that I like to ask people is I look at today's entrepreneurs and I liken them to yesterday's superheroes. We expected, Batman to come in and save the day. Wonder Woman comes in and she takes that lasso of truth and makes you confess. And now the story is solved and all these other things. My interesting thing is all of them had an origin story that had nothing to do with what they're doing today. So what I'd like to know is who is Kimanzi Constable, and who was he before?
So I'll take you back 15 years now. For 12 years, when it started when I was 19 years old, I was delivering bread in a grocery store, and I saw this guy, another bread guy, but he wasn't wearing a uniform, and I thought that was kind of odd. So I asked him, I'm like, hey, man, why don't you guys wear uniforms at your company? And he said, well, we're not employees of the company. We're independent contractors. And I didn't understand what that meant. So he explained to me that those guys got 20% of the profits, but they were responsible for all their own stuff, like their insurance, their trucks, all that. And I thought, that's interesting. I'm like, I'd like to do that. I'd like to be a business owner. And he said, well, you're going to have to invest $250,000 to buy into the business. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of a problem. So, but he did tell me that, the downside to that is that being an independent operator, we don't have traditional like vacation people. So if we want to take off, that's all on us. So he said that the guys at the company hadn't taken off for 13 years. If they had somebody they could trust to run their route, this guy would work forever. And I thought, man, dude, I could be this guy. I'm like, hey, I'm really good. You could trust me. How do I get into this? So he trained me. And from there on, that's where my first business was born. It was at 19 years old. I ran vacation routes for independent operators, and they would pay me directly. I would put a schedule out at the end of every year, and I would know where I'm going to be for the entire year. And because those guys hadn't taken vacation in so long, I had a six-figure business at 19 years old, like that the month that I started. It was a good business. Yeah,
I love it. I love it. That, oh gosh, that's just so crazy. Just so that they could take vacation. That is awesome.
yeah.
That is
Well, after
awesome.
13 years of working 7 days a week, those guys were burnt out. So they paid well, and the business grew to where at the height of it, it was $500,000. I had 5 employees in 3 different states, and it was a good business. But the problem was at 19 and just being a dumb 19-year-old, I spent money like it was like I was a millionaire. I had, a $55,000 fully loaded Nissan Armada with all the bells and whistles. I had every toy you could imagine. We were eating out every night. Like I burned through that money faster than I made it. So it was all bad. And then on top of that, I didn't know enough about business to where I wasn't in the business, meaning that even though all this income was coming in, I still had to get on the bread truck every day, which, I look back at it now and I just want to kind of kick myself for that and for many other things. But so I was always on the bread truck every morning at midnight delivering bread. And it was when I was 19 years old, it was fine. You can do anything at 19, you're Superman. But then when I got married, right? You know what I mean, right, Jay? You're at
Yes.
19, you could just run all
Right.
day and all
Right.
night. Then you turn 21 and you're partying and all that good stuff. But when I got married and we started having children and young children, and then they grew older and then they started having activities and sports and different things with school. And I'm going to these functions at like, till 8, 9 o'clock at night. Then I
Hmm.
have to wake up at midnight to deliver bread. It was a pretty rough lifestyle.
Right.
And so in the middle of it, 6 years into it, I really started to dread it. 8 years into it, I actually started to hate it. And then on top of the not sleeping, I slept 3 hours a night. I had a horrible diet because I'm always eating McDonald's at midnight when I wake up or some 3 a.m., some odd time. I had actually gained in those years, I had gained 170 pounds. I was 170 pounds overweight.
Wow.
I was doing something else miserable because I didn't understand business. I completely mismanaged the money. And like 8 or 9 years in, I had owed the IRS $180,000 in back taxes. So that was all bad. Then, me and my wife, because money was so tight, and even though the money was coming in, we had so much debt. The IRS was leveraging our accounts. And it was, when you have money problems, you have relationship problems. So it was, me and my wife fighting every day. So it was all bad. And it came to a boiling point in 2011 when all of it just came crashing down on my head. Like the IRS came, took all the money out of our accounts. Our 2 cars got repoed. Me and my wife separated. And it just seemed like anything that could go wrong went wrong all at the same time. So I sat there in a friend's house in the living room, just sitting there crying, Jay. Like I was just crying. I didn't know what else to do. And I kind of just, I'm a Christian. So at that point, even though I hadn't been to church or anything like that, I just kind of got on my knees and cried out to God. And that's, how we do it sometimes. But I knew that I'm just going to end up crashing and burning, even though I was already there. And so at that point, I'm like, you know what? Something's got to change. I got to change. I got to do something about this. At that point, I realized if something's going to change, I'm the only one that has the power to do something about it. It's me. I have to do something. And so I was randomly reading USA Today, and I had come across a story of this young girl. Her name is Amanda Hawking. She was a 19-year-old CNA from Minnesota, and I had lived in Wisconsin at the time. And she had self-published her books because all the agents and publishers she sent them to, didn't like her writing. But she self-published these books on Amazon and just used Twitter. That's all she did. And she got some book reviewers that agreed to review the books. And in an 8 month period, Jay, she had sold 1 million copies of her self-published books. And I'm reading her story in USA Today. And I thought, man, writing was something I'd always been passionate about as far back as I could remember. I could remember being in elementary school and writing love letters to girls and writing them poems and all kinds of stuff, right? And so I just always had a passion for writing. But as you get older, you start to get a little bit jaded towards your dreams. And you're like, well, I don't think I can make any money on writing. Is there really any money there?
Mm.
And so I'd given up on it. But at that point, I'm like, you know what? With everything that's going on, I'm just going to start journaling what's happening. I'm just going to start journaling this. And after about a month, my stress level had gone down, and that journaling really helped. And I'd really rediscovered a love for writing. And after a while, I went back to that article with Amanda, and I thought, if she could self-publish and sell 1 million copies, why couldn't I self-publish and sell 10,000? I don't need to sell 1 million like she did, right? Because that's crazy. I just need to sell 10,000, 10,000 copies for $4 a book, $40,000. That would have just been a miracle in our lives. And so I said, I'm going to do it. When I started looking into getting the website, getting the book edited, and the whole process, the cost was about $900, which I didn't even have. So I had to get in hustle mode, as I call it. I went up and down that summer and I cut our neighbor's grass. I cleaned their gutters. I cleaned their house. I did whatever it took to get to that $900.
Right.
And that's what I did. I hustled and I got that money by the end of that summer. And in August of 2011 is when I self-published my first book, and it was called Tales of the Everyday Working Man and Woman. And it was kind of the story of what I've told you, in detail, the different things that had gone on with this business and just different things that the everyday working person goes through. And I put this book out there to the world, and I thought, man, everybody's going to buy this book, man. Like the working man, this is for you. Like I'm writing
You
for
waiting
you.
for Oprah to call right now.
Oh, I thought for sure I was going to be in the book club. Like Oprah's going to pick this up, and I'm excited. I told everybody on the bread route, I'm like, hey, I got this book. They're like, don't worry. When this book comes out, you tell us, we're going to buy it. And
Yeah.
I told friends and family, and so many people had said they're going to buy this book, Jay. And the day that the book came out, like I'm excited because this was going to be it. And I rushed to work. I go home. I log on to Amazon, and can you guess how many books I had sold?
7.
Zero. I didn't sell
Ah.
anything. A big fat zero. If it was 7, I probably would have been happy, but it was nothing. So I thought, oh, maybe the Amazon doesn't update their results in real time. So I kept coming back every hour, and it was zero, zero, zero. So I was bitter. Jay, I was bitter. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was
Yeah.
bitter. So I went on social media and I started calling people. I'm like, hey, you fake friends that said you're gonna buy my book, you guys are all fake. Nobody on here is really my friend. You guys are all a bunch of losers. And honestly, by the end of that day, I had one friend on Facebook, and it was my wife. And she said she was pretty close to unfriending me. So I had no followers on Twitter, LinkedIn. I didn't even know how to use LinkedIn. And it was a disaster. And I was crushed. And it went on like that, Jay, for 6 months. And in that 6 months, I had bought 2 copies myself, and 3 other friends had bought a copy. So I had sold 5 copies in 6 months. And at the end of that 6 months, I'm like, you know what? This internet stuff is for suckers. This is crazy. I don't want to have nothing to do with this. I'm done. And right when I was getting ready to delete my blog and just be done with it, a young man that had been reading the blog, he emailed me and he said, hey, I love what you're writing. You inspired me. I'm going into my job tomorrow to quit my job. And like I'm reading this on my phone and I'm trying to type as fast as I can, like, don't quit your job. Like, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't quit your job. And I'm like, let's get on the phone. So we got on the phone, and even though I wasn't a life coach or didn't have any experience doing any of that kind of stuff, and it was just awkward because I'm an introvert, so it's hard for me to be in those situations. But we got on the phone and we talked through kind of what he wanted to do, and we started looking where he could find his dream job, and we put a plan together. And he actually, in 1 month, he landed that dream job. And from there, at that point on, that's really when I tell people my dream was realized. It wasn't to write, to speak, to coach, or any of that stuff. It was to help those that felt stuck, help those that felt like they had no other option. And so I turned off the quote unquote promotion. I'm doing air quotes here, Jay. Promotion, right?
Yes, I can see them. Good ones. Good ones right there. Yeah.
And I just started focusing on just helping people, and I started getting real about what was going on in my life, about the bankruptcy that we had to file, about the weight issues that I was having, about us going through our marriage issues, and I got real about that. And people were shocked. They're like, "I can't believe you just wrote about a bankruptcy." And then I got that day that I wrote that post, I got 113 emails. I'd never gotten 100 emails in my life, and I got 113 in one day. Yeah. So it was
You're like, people are
overwhelming.
reading this? I didn't
Yeah.
know that. Why didn't you say something?
But to read what they had written, and they're like, yeah, me too, me too, me too. I'm going through that. Thank you so much. And that's the day that I became a writer, Jay. And so from that
Mm.
point on, I didn't even talk about my book anymore. All I talked about was just focused on helping people get through these difficult situations. And people started reading and they started sharing. And over time, when I went back on Amazon like a couple months later, I had sold like 2,000 copies of the book. And I'm like, did I log into the right account? Like, what's going on here? Like, whose account is this?
Oh gosh, I'm
And
hacking. That's funny.
at that point, it was just a matter then, Jay, of studying some strategy. Okay, well, how do I reach a bigger audience? How do I grow this thing? And I implemented some strategy. Some of it we could talk about today, but I ended up self-publishing a second book, and as you said, over a 3-year period, both books sold 82,000 copies. And then last 2012, mid 2012, the books were selling good. I had started getting offers from publishers to publish the book, and I'm like, like, is this real? Like, what is this? I asked my wife, I'm like, what is this? And they were real offers. Like, we want to take your book and we want to publish it, put it in a bookstore. And as a writer, it was always my dream to walk into a bookstore and to see my book. And so I had attended a Brendan Bouchard event. It's Brendan Bouchard's 10X Empire event. It was in New York in 2012. And there, one of the things Brendan does really well is he forces you to network with other people. You got to meet new people every time, so you're constantly networking. So we're at dinner, and I'm rambling on to this guy, like on and on about my story in this book, like just rambling. And at the end of it, I'm like, I'm sorry, man, I didn't even ask you your name. And he's like, hi, my name is Nathan. I'm the publisher at Sound Wisdom. And from that point on, the relationships were formed, and that's who I ended up publishing my book with. And that first published book came out last year. I was able to take my 87-year-old grandfather into Barnes and Nobles, and I told
Nice.
him that I written these books. And he's like, "You wrote a book?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Where's the book at?" I'm like, "It's on the computer, Grandpa." He's like, "It's on the computer." I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "That's not a book. A book is something that you hold in your hands." Because he doesn't touch computers. So to be able to walk in there with him, and he sees a book on the bookshelf, he starts crying. Everybody that's walking by, he's like, buy my grandson's book, buy his book, buy his book now. We actually sold 5 copies of the book in the aisle that day just from his marketing effort. And it was surreal. And I mean, to speed up the story, after that, just some amazing things happened. Um, when the books did well, I had gotten an invitation to speak at a conference in West Virginia. And as I said, I'm an introvert. So immediately I said, no way, I'm not going. But then they said the magic words, Jay. They said, we'll pay you. I'm like,
What time? Where? What plane? Yeah, I
yeah.
understand. I understand.
But the coolest thing about that was flying down there. I'm sitting next to the guy. He's like, so what are you going to West Virginia for? I'm like, I'm going to speak at a conference. He's like, you're a speaker? And I sat there, I thought about it for a minute. I'm like, I'm a speaker. Like, I'm a speaker. Like, that's surreal. Like, I got landed, I called my wife. I'm like, I'm a speaker. And she's like, great. Just remember to bring home the check.
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I went to that first event. It was rough. It wasn't good. I'm not going to lie to you, Jay. I sucked.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I learned, and it was an amazing experience. And from then on, I'm like, you know what? I want to do some of this more. One of the friends that I had met at 10X Empire said, hey, I'm throwing this conference in New York. You want to fly out to New York? We'll take care of you here. I'm like, I've never been to New York. Why not? I went to New York, Times Square. midnight in Times Square. It looks like it's broad daylight. And there's, millions of people. And it was just New York. It just makes you feel so alive, like eating New York pizza, like eating the real New York pizza, the real stuff. It was amazing. And so from that conference, I'm like, you know what, Jay, I'm going to dream a little bit bigger. I
Right.
want to do something international.
Right.
I'm like, can I really pull that off? And so I had seen a conference in Sydney, Australia that a friend had told me about. And I'm like, hey, can you connect me with the organizer? Connected me with the organizer. We worked out the terms. And I flew out to speak at the University of Sydney to 1,000 people in Sydney, Australia. The coolest part of that trip was I was in the IMAX in Darling Harbour in Sydney, and Batman, The Dark Knight Rises. That's when that had to come out. I saw that movie 16 hours before it came out here in the United States. And so I'm calling my friends. They're like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm watching Batman. They're like, that's not out yet. I'm like, well, it is here in Sydney. It
Yeah.
was surreal. And since then, Jay, I've spoken in Israel, London, Paris, Japan, any country you could think of, I've spoken in, and it's been absolutely amazing. I was able to take my wife last year for a late honeymoon because we never had a honeymoon. So I took her to London and Paris and Kenya actually for a 3 week speaking tour. And she's like, I kind of like what you do for a living. I'm like, yeah, me too. And then
Right.
the last two pieces of the equation, Jay, were the weight. Weight had been something that I struggled with for so many years, but I was the best man at my best friend's wedding, and I said, you know what, this weight is out of control. And so I started small with dieting and running. My mom is from Kenya, hence the name Kimanzi. So, and I lived in Kenya for 2 years. So running is kind of something that was in my blood. So I started small, and over a year and a half period, I was able to lose 170 pounds. I lost all of it. And, I'm still running to this day. And then the last piece was we lived in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and we had come out to Maui, Hawaii in 2010. And we're like, we're going to retire there. But then as we started talking and really dreaming, we're like, why go there when we're older and we can't enjoy it? Why not go there now? And so 4 months ago, we moved out here to Maui. And so if you hear like some birds chirping in the background, I'm in Maui. The weather's beautiful. It's so much life in the trees and stuff like that. So that's why you hear the birds. But we've been out here in Maui for 4 months, and we're just loving it.
Well, right now, I'm hoping no one's listening to this and it's snowing anywhere because they'll be probably upset with you. But at the same time, they should use that energy to begin to create the things that you're looking for. Now, there's a number of things that you said that I think are worth digging into, because what you've done is you've taken what the hand you were dealt with, and that's probably the first thing that I'm listening to you, I'm hearing is you took the hand you were dealt, and instead of complaining about it and saying somebody should do something, you eventually got to the point of something has to change. Now, many people make it to the point of something has to change. Very few ever go, well, that something is me. How did you do that? Okay, I'm going to ask you a serious question right now. Give yourself a serious answer. When something doesn't go as you have planned in the past, do you try to blame, shame, or justify someone? Here's my point. Simply, you're hearing this particular gentleman, Kimanzi Constable, be able to recover from having made errors in judgment. I don't know if you've noticed, but most of the people that you consider successful, they've made at least one error in judgment before. Interestingly enough, it's how they responded to that error in judgment that made the separation between those who continue on to success and those who continue on to something else. My point is this. There's value in every one of the errors and judgments, call that mistakes or failure events that you have ever made. In fact, I believe it so strongly. Here's what we've done. I've created a webinar. Now, I'm not going to tell you how to get to it yet, but I'm going to tell you that what we did is I did some math and I added up some of my largest mistakes, and we're talking many millions of dollars of errors, and I'm going to share them with you because I have a feeling that if I did, it would help you. You're going to have to stay tuned for that. But for now, let's just understand this. When you make an error in judgment, when you experience a failure event, that does not mean it's the end of your story. Let's get back to it.
When I thought about where I wanted to go and how I wanted to get there, and practically how am I going to do that, I realized it's not going to be somebody that's going to hold my hand. It's not going to be, some handout that I could get that would help solve my financial problems. I'm not going to win the lottery or anything like that.
Yeah, that hasn't worked for me either. Keep going.
I just had to get on my grind. I had to just get down there, put a plan together, and I just had to do it. I just realized it was all going to be on me. This isn't a movie. Life isn't a movie. It's something that wasn't just going to magically happen. If something was going to happen, I had to do it.
Right. There's no fade to black, and then the next day, all the problems are solved. It's not in the case. And then the other thing you know what I think would be interesting? We should get a group of us introverts together and have a conference and see how loud it'll be. But I think that would be fun, if nothing else. But you didn't let your predisposition. The same thing for me. I tell people all the time, I'm naturally introverted and shy. They, for whatever reason, don't believe me anymore. But I didn't let that stop me. And you didn't let it stop you. Why?
Well, yeah, I can totally agree with you, Jay, because they're like, well, why do you have a podcast? Well, why are you speaking?
Right.
Oh, it's hard to explain. But I didn't let it stop me because I was determined. I had a goal that I wanted to hit, and I was going to do whatever it taken. I had settled in life for so long. And then on top of that, too, Jay, something that I didn't even bring up was in 2012, my father had died at the age of 54, and he had died young. And right at the end of his life, and he died suddenly in his sleep of heart disease. And so one of the things he had always said to me as our last few conversations was that he had wished he had done this and he had wished he had done that. He died with so many regrets. And I didn't want to die that way, Jay. And I knew that if I was going to die with no regrets, I had to do that. I had to get over whatever issues I was dealing with, like being an introvert and some of the things that I was afraid to do. I had to just get over it and do it.
But wait a minute. It's uncomfortable. It's not normal. I mean, how did you deal with all those thoughts? Because I know you have them, because I have them, and everyone else listening, they're probably, yeah, Jay, keep asking, because I want to know.
Yeah, one thing that really helped, probably the thing that helped me the most, was a good support system. So I have two best friends. They're my best friends in the whole world, but they're the kind of best friends that they'll call me out. So when I'm sitting there making excuses and saying, well, I'm an introvert and this isn't going right, this and that, they're like baloney. They're like baloney. They're like, you need to go back. You need to figure this out. You need to do whatever it takes to make this happen. And then when I want to brainstorm, okay, so this is what I'm kind of thinking, I could do that with them. And we talk literally every day, Jay. We talk literally every day. So it was a mastermind before I even knew what those were. But having that support system for the times I need to be called out, for the times I just needed a shoulder to cry on, for the times when I just needed some encouragement and some help and some support, they were there. So I would say you got to have some good support system in your life. You got to have some good people. And the same token, you got to cut out the negative people. So I had so many toxic people in my life that said, you're never going to do this. It's never going to happen. And you already have so many doubts and fears in your mind already. And when you get somebody negative,
right, you don't need any extra help.
Yeah, you're going to believe it. And you're going to let it hold you back.
Right.
And so I had to let go of my best friend since I was a little kid. I had to say, you know what, man, I love you, but you're just not good for my life right now. And I had to let them go. And once I did, it was like a weight lifted off my shoulders. So have that good support system and cut out the negative from your life. And it doesn't necessarily have to be people. It could be negative habits. It could be, what if you spend 4 hours a day watching TV? What could those other 4 hours a day be spent doing? It could be spent hustling on your dream, losing weight, doing whatever it is that you want to do in your life. It's just getting all the negative things out and replacing it with things that are going to help you get to where you want to go.
The return on time. You suddenly gave your time a minimum wage, and now where you're working in a completely different space. And so, what I like is that you've taken the time to understand yourself, first of all, and then figure out how you could be of value to many, many different people. And many of us, the same thing is true in the real estate world. You got to figure out who you want to serve first. And that's exactly what you just wrote an article on your website concerning, the first steps to getting a business done, be that online, brick and mortar, whatever, was to figure out whom you want to serve. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. And something that I didn't understand in the beginning, it's the reason that my book flopped was because I thought everybody has to work in some form or another. So my target market is the entire world. Everybody's going to work. This is great. But when I sat down and really thought about, okay, who is this for? I came up with the family man,
Mm,
and it was a family man between the ages of 25 and 35. And the reason for that was because that's who I was absolutely head over heels passionate about, because that's who I was. And so I know what that person is thinking. I know what he's going to go through. I know what he's going through right now. And I want to help him. But for you, it might be something different. Maybe you're a single mother. Maybe you want to speak to single mothers. Maybe you were raised by a single mother. So you want to talk about single mothers and help them because you went through it. Maybe it's your married father, whatever it is, whoever you want to talk to in your business, you got to get very clear about who that is. And when I say clear, I mean age, gender, because men and women, we go through different circumstances in life and in different ways. Where they live, there could be something specific to your location, real estate location, location. So
love
if
it.
you're in the United States, we have a lot of things going on here in the United States, especially if you're talking to United States family man. Okay, what is the family man going through in the United States? He's got to worry about this and he's got to worry about that. But the clearer that you can get, the more you can dig deep and the more you can specifically help that audience. You can get to the heart of the real issues and really speak to them. And they'll respond because they're going to say, man, this guy is talking directly to me.
Right. And speak to the point because but by doing that, by being so specific, you're cutting out so many people, aren't you?
Yeah. Seth Godin always says if you try to reach the whole world, you're going to reach nobody.
Right.
So you're going to have people, regardless, that are just going to vibe with you and they're going to read what you write or they're going to do business with you just because of who you are. But you can't help everybody. You can't help everybody in the world. I wish you could, but you can't. But you can make a difference in a specific group of people. You can really hone in and help a lot of people um, go through a situation that you have experience with.
Yep. Love it. So, with all of that being said, how on earth did like a business online become the way to make this happen?
Yeah, it's crazy. If you would have told me about online business like 5 years ago, I would have laughed at you, Jay. Um, but the thing is this, there's 2.5 billion people online every day. Right now, as Jay and I are talking, 2.5 billion people are online. And in 5 years, that number is going to triple. I saw this really when I went to Kenya last year in October, Jay. And when me and my wife were walking around in like some of the poorest places, ever, it's, third world poor. You can see sewage, you can see, not roads and stuff like that, not good drinking water. But every single person there had a cell phone. Everyone. I mean, it was insane. You can really see what's going on with society. Everybody's connected, everybody's online. So if you ever wanted to create a business or help your existing business, the internet is the place to go. And even besides the internet, look what's happened with social media. Social media has just kind of exploded like crazy. I didn't join social media to 2011 because I had resisted up to that point. But even since then, it's kind of just gone haywire. Our lives are all social. So the opportunity is there. The income is there. Money is being spent. I mean, look at what Amazon does. What, $74 billion a year? Some crazy number like that. So the income is there. So creating a business online, and then on top of that, for me, the thing that I had really thought about, Jay, is I wanted the location independence. I didn't want to be
Hmm.
tied down to one area. I wanted to be. We want to travel. We want to be able to move around. I have clients, I have coaching clients. I have clients that buy products and services. I had a coaching client, Jay, that I coached, last year that I had to coach from the lobby of a hotel in Jerusalem. And all I needed was an internet connection, the Wi-Fi in the lobby. That's all I needed. And
Right.
I could still be working. I could still be earning money. Even when I'm not coaching, people are, while I'm on a flight flying somewhere, people are buying books and they're buying things from my website. I love that. I love that. I love the independence. I love the freedom where I could wake up and say, you know what? I don't have to go anywhere today. I don't have to do anything. I'm just going to have this interview with Jay. And then when I get done with you, Jay, you know what I'm doing when I'm done with you?
Playing with birds.
I'm going to jump in the ocean. The ocean's about half a mile from our house. I can see it from where I'm sitting. I'm going to go swim in the ocean with
You're
the
gonna
kids.
make people mad again.
Yeah.
Better watch it. Better watch it.
You know what's kind of surprising is since we moved here, I've lost like 22 friends on Facebook.
Yeah, they want you. They want to be there with you. It's all good. Now,
Oh,
I understand all of these things, and what's pretty funny with the challenge, for us was. And still is the fact that real estate is so location based. The one thing I wanted was I still wanted my mobility, even though we do real estate, and being able, because of today's technology through the internet, online podcasting, websites, blah, 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 these things are possible. And it's like funny that these things are possible. When people ask me all the time where the real estate is, and one of the things they often say is, but don't you live in California? Yes, I do. And how does all that work? And it spawns this whole new conversation. So I am with you 100% on the location independence. I didn't want to have to feel like I had to be any one place at any one time. And, between my iPhone, iPad, and an internet connection, I'm not sure I need much else. My team is awesome at helping things that need to get done. And it's become such a secret, quote unquote, to business in general. And then it makes me wonder basic questions. Why wasn't I taught this in school?
oh man, let's not even go down that route.
I know, right? We can't talk that long.
I've lost friends because of that as well. Like, what are we learning in school?
Well, it's what we're not learning.
Yep.
That concerns me more than what we are learning. And it's kind of like you were talking about, right? The 4 hours on TV versus where those 4 hours could have been invested otherwise. And you put all that stuff together, and at some point you gotta, man, you gotta make some different choices. So what's been the most surprising thing that you've seen happen to yourself in this process? I mean, you decided to, your book titles, Are You Living or Existing? I like that. What's been the most surprising thing that has happened to you once you decided to make the choice to live?
Well, it was hard, and I don't want anybody listening to this to just think that, like it was an overnight success or stuff like that happened, because it was a, 4-year battle to get to here now. So
Well,
it was hard.
that is overnight. It's just over many nights.
Yeah, over many nights, right. And and sometimes when people listen to podcasts and we're talking about a lot of things in a short amount of time, yeah, know that it was hard, but it's to me still seems surreal to wake up and look outdoors and see that I'm in Hawaii. Because we had talked about it for so long, Jay. We had talked about it for so long, and now that we're actually here, it's surreal. It's surreal that I get to wake up and I get to write, and I get to write for a living, and it's that I get to wake up and I'll get an email from PayPal saying, okay, this person just bought this, and just bought that. To see those emails, that's surreal to me. Surreal that I don't have to go like punch a clock and be on a bread truck, and because I had done it for 12 years, so it's so ingrained to me. So sometimes I even wake up, just at those hours, just because I did that for so many years. But it's surreal that you can live this kind of lifestyle, and it shouldn't be, but it is. But it is possible.
Yeah. And so for the person or persons out there who are saying, how can I ever make money at my dream? Or it's just not even conceivable that, you mean what I like to do could be actually what I do, and I could generate a sustainable income doing it? What would you say to that person today?
I would say start with figuring out who you want to talk to, as Jay and I talked about. Who's that target audience? Okay. Once you figure that out, then it's a matter of, well, we're talking about the online world. You need a website. There's many videos on YouTube that you can watch that would help you with that. It's not complicated anymore to get a website put up. But then really the focus of your website should be to that target audience. Who are you talking to, and what are you talking to them about? This is the place for the single mother to learn how to rock single mothership in life. Whatever your message is, put that on that website. Make it very clear. Put up some content. The day and age we live in is great. It could be, you don't have to be a writer. You could have a podcast like, you're listening to now. You could do videos. You want to do some video training? Great. Whatever you're comfortable doing, just start off with your story. Story is the most powerful way to connect with people. Start with your story. And from there, kind of figure out what are some of the things that the people in your audience are going through. What are some of their biggest struggles? What are they facing right now? And kind of start dealing with those. And once you deal with people's biggest struggles, that's the kind of stuff they respond to because they're struggling with it. So help them with that. Then it's a matter of figuring out, okay, well, when you want to monetize it, there's a lot of different ways to monetize. It could be something as simple as writing a short guide. You write a short guide in Microsoft Word, you put that on your website, put a PayPal button, and you're selling that. To as complicated as writing a book. It could be doing video training. You could put 3 videos together on some very specific thing, throw that on your website, and you got yourself a video course. It could be some sort of audio product. You don't want to do video, do audio. You have an audio series on the 5 best ways for single mothers to be more productive. Whatever it is, then you got yourself an audio product. There's a lot of different ways you can figure out how to monetize. And the cost of this, it's insanely cheap. I tell people for $20 a month, you could have yourself a business. You pay for the shopping cart service, you pay for your email service provider, and you pay for your web hosting, and boom, you got yourself a business for $20 a month. Then it's just a matter of, okay, well, how do I reach the audience? How do I build my audience? If you want to sell something, there's got to be people seeing it that will buy it. So how do I do that? There's a lot of different ways to do that. You can do interviews, you can do SEO stuff. The primary way that I built my audience since I'm a writer was through guest posting. One guest post in 2012 on Michael Hyatt's blog, somebody that I highly respect, got me 20,000 unique visitors and 6,000 email subscribers in one day. One day. That's it, a guest post. So when I had no traffic, that was the quickest way that I built traffic was through guest posting. So build your audience and then tell your audience what you have that you're selling, and you'll find that over time. And the crazy thing is people think, well, I need 5,000 people on my email list or 5,000 people view my website to make income. And that's just not true. If you have one product or one service that is $1,000, guess what? You only need one person to buy it. One person to buy it to make $1,000. That's it. So if you had 10 people, I had a coaching client, Jay, that had 10 people on his email list, and he had a $1,300 profit. Nice. Out of those 10 people, he sold to one person. He made $1,300 in the first 30 days we worked together. That's all you need to do is get one person to buy it. You need to convince one person, not 100, one. And you get a few of those a month, and the money starts to add up. And then over time, the business is built.
Awesome. I love this in so many ways because it starts with grassroots. You start with what you have and you don't focus on what you don't have, and you go out there and make something happen. So share with us how we can get more of you.
You can connect with me at kimanziconstable.com. That's KIMANZICONSTABLE. I'm laughing.
You might want to do that again. See, that's why I had you do it, because I'm going to mess it up. I'm going to mess it up.
You can Google Kimanzi Constable, or if it's just easier, you can go to livingorexistingbook.com, and that will redirect you to KimanziConstable.com. So I'll spell it again. That's KIMANZICONSTABLE. And you could also Google it, because there's not a lot of Kimanzi Constables, I could tell you that.
No.
So you can Google it and you get close. But head over to the site, and the thing that I would recommend is just sign up for the email list, because when you do, you're going to get a completely free PDF. It's going to be a 6-part series on how to start and market a profitable online business. And it will go through everything that Jay have talked about step by step with hundreds of links that will help you do that. And that's completely free.
Awesome. Well, sir, I am definitely glad and grateful that you've taken the time to invest here with the Cashflow Diary audience. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, Jay. This was fun.
All right, everybody, you know what it's time to do. It's time for you to move at the speed of instruction. It's time to go over to KimanziConstable.com. No, I'm not going to try to spell it. Hopefully you were listening. Hit the pause button. Go back. Again, KimanziConstable.com. Get started. Start where you are with what you have. Do something, anything. It's better than continuing to agree to show up for the wage you know you are worth more than. Anyway, it's been fun talking to you one more time. I'm glad that you were here, and I look forward to talking to all of you guys again soon. Until next time.
Thank you for investing your time with Jay Massey and the Cash Flow Diary. When you have a moment, please visit iTunes and leave a positive comment about the show. And go now to our website, cashflowdiary.com, to take advantage of our free business building course, Cash Flow Foundation. Gain the knowledge, understanding, and skill that will teach you how to never need a job again. Until next time.